I think we should go on this theme here. I think I want to talk to Darick, who is calling in from Canada. Darick, you also wanted to talk about creation. You're live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty good, going good. So what do you got for us?
So I want to talk a little bit about, actually, it's good that I followed up behind that last guy because I also believe that there's some ancient knowledge in our ancient books, such as the Bible, that are misinterpreted. And that goes really well with what I'm going to talk about, which is creation.
Yeah. Okay.
So first, I'd like to start with asking you guys a couple of questions, right?
Oh, I love the callers that start with asking us questions. You know, it's always a fun time. Anyway, Darick, go ahead.
Sure. So first of all, I assume you guys are well versed in the theory of evolution and what we're made up of, et cetera, right?
I would say above average knowledge. I wouldn't say expert, but I know a thing or two. Sure.
Yeah, I am not a biologist,
so,
but familiar with the concept. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have a basic understanding of what the human body is made up of, correct?
Yep. Atoms.
Got a fair bit of bacteria.
The physical. What I mean by that is the physical material that we're made up of, which is like molybdenum, iron, copper, etc. Right?
Yeah, I mean lots of elements and minerals and all kinds of stuff. I couldn't tell you all of them. I could tell you a few, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also in our last evolution, I'd like to get your take, and then I'll give you my take. What is the thing that changed about us that really made us advance technology, everything wise?
Well,
in all aspects.
One, I think it's interesting you use in our last evolution, because evolution is occurring at every new progeny, right? Every single time birth happens, there's evolution.
I mean, in our current evolution, the evolution, the being that we are now from the last one to now.
In the science of anthropology, this is actually a very hotly debated topic. There's no official consensus. There's some that say it's because of our larger cranial capacity. So if you look at Neanderthalensis versus, Australopithecus afarensis, and you look at the lineage of what we call human lineage, you see an increase in brain size. Basically, you see an increase in at least cranial capacity. We can't actually measure the brains because they're organic matter. But and some people have said, well, it's because of this increase that there's a correlation with intelligence, and intuitively that makes sense. There's also some people that say, well, the agricultural revolution actually really changed the game for us because that had us to give us the ability for some say leisure time, although some say that hunter-gatherer societies actually had more leisure time. But there's a lot of development in human culture that's happened in the last 10,000 years that hasn't happened in the thousands of years before that, and it's still kind of a mystery. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's the cooking of certain of proteins, and maybe it's I don't know. There's still a lot of debate about it. Yeah.
And I'm just going to jump in here too. I don't want to take over the whole call, but I love when we talk about cranial capacity to just mention little known fact: Neanderthals actually had
larger heads. Yes, and that actually has been like a big thorn in this idea that, well, if you have bigger heads, then you're going to be smarter, because Neanderthals, you're right, does have larger cranial capacity. So that's why there's no real, there's ideas, but there's not going to be one. Any good scientist who studies this is not going to say, yeah, this is definitely the one. I don't know. That's my take, though.
My favorite one, though, is, because I did study anthropology in school, so I'm super pumped that we're talking about this. Thank you for calling in with this. But my favorite one is the hypothesis that perhaps the success of Homo sapiens sapiens has to do with our partnership with and domestication of dogs, and that was one of the things that actually helped us outcompete other early humans.
I think I've heard that too.
Yeah, I'm sure that definitely helped us to survive, because they would have protected us and alerted us to a lot. But I would agree mostly. It is our intelligence. Whether that's related to the size of our brain or not, we don't know, because, like you said, in previous, I just call it evolutions. I'm not sure if I'm articulating right to say that, but in our previous, forms, we also are known to possibly have bigger brains, right?
Yeah.
But yet we weren't as advanced.
Yeah.
So I believe, and I would theorize that it's that intelligence allowed us to increase our language. Without the word, without being able to speak the way we are and coming up with dictionaries, etc., as well as math,
Yeah.
We wouldn't even have a periodic table of elements. We wouldn't know what to call what. We needed names for everything and sounds, if you would, right?
Yeah.
So I would argue that word, being able to speak language was a big, huge, massive advancement for us in this current form
I think you're definitely right. There's also a big debate whether or not other human species could speak. Like whether Neanderthals had language is a huge debate topic.
Yes.
Well, they do say it is common consensus, I think, that they did have some. Just
sure. Yeah.
Don't know how much.
Probably guttural noises, at least. I mean, they could talk, but does that mean they have words, right? There's a difference.
And there's some difference in the morphology of the throat area that would probably make a difference in how much language, but we don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Darick.
So I'm going to relate this eventually to creation, but
I'm wondering where this is going, because so far you seem to be affirming our side on a lot of things, which is unexpected, but I'll take it.
I'm going to show you where ancient knowledge within the Bible actually agrees with science, and how science actually is the study of God, if there was one. I don't particularly believe that there's a being God, but anyways, that's besides the point. I'm going off into left field there. So with the story of creation in Genesis, it says we come from the sands of the earth, which is absolutely correct. We are the sands of the earth. So how they knew that, we don't know. It also said that in the beginning, the Word was with God, and God was the Word. And then we actually got the Word, and we also got, which they say is an evil thing, we got the knowledge of good and evil. We got the ability to be destructive or creative. And now when they said when we were made in God's image, what the author intended, I believe, was that we were made to be able to create. So they fathomed something that created us all. They called it God. And then they said, well, how we're made in his image or God's image or its image, whatever you want to call it, is we're able to create.
Yeah, so...
And I know that creation is a thing because we do it every day. I'm holding this device in my hand. We've not only harnessed the power of electricity, we're able to tell it exactly what to do with zeros and ones.
Okay, a couple things.
And whatnot to bring pixels to a screen, right?
A lot of stuff here.
Creation is a thing in the universe.
Darick, a lot of stuff here. First of all, human beings did not come from sand. Human beings...
We're made up of.
We're not made of sand.
Wait, we already talked about this.
Yeah, you agree that we're made of different elements and different...
Right. Molybdenum, iron, etc. As a prospector, I know that all these things exist in the sands and the dirt. Sand is just broken down rock, right?
Right. So it's pretty fallacious to say that we're made of sand. But by that logic, Darick, every animal could be, at least mammal would be made of sand also. Like that's just because those are natural materials. Like, yeah, we're made of natural materials. Doesn't mean we're literally made of sand.
It's interesting that they somewhat knew what we were made of. I'm not saying that they exactly knew.
Darick, I gotta say, that is a stretch, my friend. I think that is a big stretch.
Yes, you could definitely say that's a stretch.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is what I really want to get at is the creation part. So within the universe, we know that gravity exists. You can drop a pencil, you see that gravity exists. We know, all these forces exist. We know all these things exist because we can see them. Now, we create things all the time. Planes that fly through the air. We put, we break down the rocks, turn them into metals. We break down the oils, turn them into plastics, etc. We also make fuel, and then we fly across the sky at 600 miles an hour or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So we're constantly creating. So creation is a thing. So I believe that there has to be a creative force. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to say it's the God of the Bible. We as humans need to personify, quantify, and qualify things so much, right? So that's why we have. And then that's why my argument is a lot of people and a lot of science denies creation, that this could be a creation, that there could have been some sort of birth rather than just a random big bang out of absolute nothingness, absolutely no point to it all, right?
So are you saying that creation is something that is unique to human beings, and this speaks? Okay.
No, I'm saying it's a force in the universe, and we somehow, by whatever decides what gets what, however it happens. I mean, I'm not an evolution scientist, and we're not that deep into exactly how it's all decided as to what happens, right? But yeah, we were given the ability to create. So that's why I say the author, which I believe was Moses in the Bible, that's what he was talking about. We were able to create. So whatever it was, if it created us, which I don't quantify or qualify as a being or supernatural being.
So
that's within us, and we actually have the consciousness and the ability to create.
I'm a little confused. Do you believe in the theory of evolution? Like, do you believe human beings?
Yeah, I'm not well versed in it, but
okay.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Science.
So
if there is
evolution, right? Evolution posits that we got to where we are today through natural forces, right? Like evolution posits that we were, like, you could have considered us other animals at some point down the line, and then another kind of animal some down the line, right? So, like, when what does that mean to say we're created? Because we're really evolution also posits that we're products of our environment, right? Like, we come up with adaptations to suit where we are in the world. Like, that's not creation, right? Like, that is just a response to the environment. I don't see why you need to have conscious intent in order for that fact to be true.
No. Other animals do create to a small extent.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking about beings that evolve, right? Like as we mentioned, evolution happens through every successive generation. Every time mutations happen, every time changes in your body happen through evolution, it's in part a response to your environment, right? Like, your environment is ultimately going to make up what your physiology looks like on a scale of millions of years.
Or something.
Yes, I mean, this is macroevolution is evolution. Yeah, I mean, they're one and the same.
Of course.
But, like, my point is that's not creating, right? That's not a conscious intent. I mean, you can run a simulation of animals and other kinds of things going through changes. But we don't have to say, okay, I want this to be the final product. It comes with it on its own, as long as we set up the parameters, right?
Okay, so there are some scientists today that are theorizing that this could be a simulation.
Yes.
You heard of this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it being a simulation, even that theory kind of points to, well, something created that. Something.
I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what people mean when they say simulation theory.
The view of an atheist, where there's no supernatural being that controls us all with a big gavel in the sky saying, "I'm going to judge you," right?
Yeah. So what is the being or the entity or the force that you're describing? I think maybe if we start with that, we'll understand more why you're saying this supports it.
That's the problem. I think we don't know because we tend in science to stray away from any sort of something created us. I don't know if it's because of our ego, or I don't know if it's because Christianity and that just disagrees so much with science, because science can disprove a lot of what Christianity says, like the Great Flood, like, for example, like you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I constantly deny that creation is a force in the universe, yet we create constantly as humans, like, just amazing things. We actually take like I was just saying, zeros and ones.
I agree.
Pixels on the screen.
Human beings are obviously capable of creating amazing things. I don't see how that leads to a God. Like, I think that's the disconnect, right?
No, not to a God. Not to a God, to a creative force.
But what about all of the other things?
Being a thing within the universe.
What about all the other things that people do, though, right? Like, we create things, but we also destroy things. Are you saying that, like, everything that humans do, there's some other force in the universe that represents that activity?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, why pick out just creativity?
I'm saying that we of all creatures. And I think that's the intention of the author of that Genesis, that we, above all creatures, are more so made in that image of creation rather than destruction. A destruction has to happen. In order for anything to live on this earth, something has to die. A plant has to die. If I'm a vegetarian, even, things have to die in order for me to live, or for something else to live, right? That's always going to be a force. We know that's a force in nature and in the world and in the universe.
So then why is that not the important force that you're focusing on? Why is it creation that is the key thing here?
Like, why does creativity point to a higher creative force?
Well, what drives us to create? Why would we even bother? Why would there be good days and bad days? I mean, without bad days, there's no good days, right? It's all it all works together. We know that.
Yeah.
But what does that have to do with this cosmic creative force? How does that make good days and bad days significant.
Well, we don't. I guess I kind of did a bit of a ramble and went sideways there. But the creative force. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, it's denied. Like I even mentioned creation as a part of the universe entirely, and most people, like an atheist, would be like, "Whoa, what do you mean? No way! It just happened. We figured it out how it happened." Okay, great. Yeah, we figured out how it happened. We know that there's a great theory of evolution, the Big Bang, etc. But it was all created. We just don't know what or why. How do I say that? Yeah, what specifically created it? We can't deny that creation is a power of the universe, especially as such manifestations of creation ourselves. Like we create intensively.
Yeah, I think you've hit on why sometimes people bristle at that suggestion when you're talking about a creator or having been created. It's because it is sometimes a way of smuggling in this argument for a God into a discussion by changing the argument from we exist, which is something we can all agree on unless we're going down the simulation path. But let's set that aside for now for the purposes of this conversation. If we all agree that we exist, that's one thing. But that word doesn't mean the exact same thing as to say we were all created. That adds an assumption into the conversation that presupposes the existence of this higher power that, can then easily be named God. And, people usually say that it is the God that they believe in.
Right.
So that's the reason people are very hesitant to accept that premise, because it is often used to try and smuggle something into the discussion that, no, we don't actually all agree is the case.
Yeah. And also,
so I would move to say more so, okay, so the Big Bang. We'll go right to that, okay?
Well, real quick though, Darick, before we get to that, before we get to that, I mean, creativity again is also a very subjective sort of human construct. Like we have AI right now that can create images and can write poems and can write text. I don't believe how AI is doing that is supernatural in any sort of way. I don't believe because AI can do that, there has to be some sort of external, creator force out there. I just think it's it's literally natural processes, right? It's computer programming that makes something like that happen. That's following natural laws and everything that it does to make something like that happen. So again, to suppose like, oh, there has to be something beyond the natural that does that, it just doesn't follow to me. I don't get it.
Well, I mean, you say natural laws, right?
Yeah.
Who made those laws?
Well, laws are just, in the scientific community, like laws are just more of a term that describes, patterns in the universe, right? It's not literally, a law made by like.
It just exists, right?
Yeah.
Exist.
I mean, they do exist, and why they exist? What's why are there laws as opposed to not laws? I have no idea. I don't know anybody that could tell you that.
Well,
but
gravity's a law, right?
Well, it's not a law in the sense that English is weird. It's we use words that mean a lot of different things, and so sometimes when we're discussing a word like law, we might be talking, the three of us all using the same word, talking about three different things. And I think we probably all agree that when we're talking about things that we call natural laws, there I go with the air quotes again.
Constant. I'm talking about constants that govern the universe.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that's something that we are describing when we say this is a natural law, like the quote law of gravity. We're not saying that there's a rule that we have to fall to the earth if we, fall off of something. It's not that we're saying, someone made up a rule and we're all following it, because we're supposed to. We're calling it that because we're describing something that we have observed happening.
Yeah, well,
we're making descriptions.
I think Darick knows that. I think he's saying why are there these forces in the universe?
Things
why did these observations happen the way they do?
How did they? Well, yeah. Why is definitely the thing too. Why and how? Because if that exists and it works with everything else, why does it work so perfectly? And what was? See, I guess the closest thing to my way of seeing things is a pantheist, but I wouldn't consider myself entirely a pantheist. Are you familiar with?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Darick, we've been talking to you for a bit. We do have to kind of move on with our call here. I'm sorry to cut this conversation short, but I will say, like, when talking about this, you bring up some interesting questions of what's called metaphysics, right? Really the idea of like why the physical laws exist as they do. I mean, it is kind of profound in a way. Like, it's not really something I think we may ever be able to know, to be honest with you. It's very mysterious. It's kind of spooky. Why is there a strong nuclear force and a weak nuclear force? Why is there electromagnetism? I mean, like, we can describe the how. When it comes to the why, like, there's some question marks there. Maybe we'll figure that out one day, but again, for us, like, I never have to come to the conclusion, well, it has to be a supernatural something that has intent or has a design or has anything. It could just be, it is because it is, and maybe that's just life. I don't know. I think if I was going to be convinced of a creator or some sort of force even that has intent, it has to be more than just, well, things exist, therefore somebody made the thing that exists. Because I don't know, it's just not as convincing to me. Anyway, sorry, Darick, I'm doing the thing, and I complain about this all the time. Yeah, go ahead, real quick.
I would say hopefully in another, maybe my great-grandkids will talk about a creation law, the law of creativity or something, who knows?
Maybe so. Yeah. But not today. Sorry, Darick. Oh, that's funny. I'm just kidding with you. But anyway, it was great talking to you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Yeah, I don't even know what that would be, to be honest with you. Law of creativity.
The law of creativity. I don't know what that means. Just that things will exist.
Things. You got to do drugs to be creative. Is that the law of?
That might be the law.
You can be creative without drugs. I'm just kidding. Don't do drugs, kids.
You can be creative without caffeine, even.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. I know that. So that was an interesting call.